His Word is Now by E.W.KENYON and Don Gosset. Chapter 2. Beyond the end of our nose. If we are to be true to Jesus' Great Commission, we must allow the Holy Spirit to give us a vision beyond the end of our nose. By that, I mean that it's not enough to be satisfied with ministering only in Jerusalem. If we do not resist grief or quench the Holy Spirit, surely we will receive His vision for the unreached in other nations of the world. In my first years in the Lord's work, I focused my attention solely on ministry in Canada and the United States. What an undeniable stirring in my heart there was when the Holy Spirit revealed my responsibility to other countries. Following the Lord's direction, we placed our daily radio program, Bold Bible Living, on Trans World Radio and began broadcasting the gospel in 89 nations. Soon, we were receiving invitations to conduct crusades. I vividly remember the thrill and challenge my wife and I sensed as we boarded on Air Canada Jumbo Jet in Vancouver to our first overseas crusades on an island in the West Indian Ocean. I was pumped high with excitement and expected to be mightily used by God. As we disembarked the plane, we were greeted with the initial blast of heat and humidity. Little could we have anticipated the fierce testing we would experience in the days ahead. Immediately, my physical body began reacting violently. I started hemorrhaging, which was accompanied by raging fevers and bone-shaking chills. For several days, I lingered between delirium and consciousness. The national pastors agreed to postpone our first crusade. One hot afternoon, Joyce heard a sharp knock on the hotel room door. She quickly opened the door, and in walked the hotel manager, who peered through the mosquito net and saw me lying on the bed. In a pool of perspiration and blood, she abruptly demanded that my wife remove me from the hotel, stating emphatically, "I don't want this man to die in my hotel." Sadly, we were required to book our flights back to Vancouver. I didn't understand why we had met with such adversity and dismal failure. A deep sense of defeat overwhelmed me. I had not even preached a single sermon or led one soul to Christ. As the Air Canada jet descended in Vancouver, I turned to my wife, took her hand in mine, and pledged never to take her overseas again. Dejectedly, I said, "Honey, we tried our best, but it didn't work out. We will never leave the shores of North America again." I was humiliated that I didn't even notify our children or church family that we were returning home. Instead, Joyce and I rented a car at the airport and drove home. After 6 weeks of physical battles, the hemorrhaging finally stopped. Soon, we settled back into life with our family and church. But the vision for the lost in other countries still burned in our spirit. Within a year, our hearts were aflame with the fire and zeal for missionary evangelism. Though I had said to my wife that we would never leave North America again, we did go overseas scores and scores of times. God had greatly blessed us. Countless thousands of precious people have received our ministry as we have proclaimed Christ in 55 nations. If God had burdened your heart for the nations of the world to see the redemption of the Lord reach the end of the earth, I offer these suggestions to you. 1. Get God's direction. Pray that 8-word prayer made famous by Saul of Tarsus in Acts 9:6. "Lord, what wilt thou have me to do?" If your heart is yielded, the Holy Spirit will give you guidance. 2. Get provision for the vision. My dear friend C.M. Ward once said, "Next to salvation, money is your best friend." Traveling overseas and financing effective crusades for God's glory usually requires thousands of dollars, but where God guides, He provides. 3. Be bold and fearless. More than 40 years ago, when I worked with T.L. Osborne, he generously imparted to me many wonderful principles about taking the gospel around the world. I'll never forget one of his handwritten memos with these 2-word admonition. Be fearless. That's just as good advice now as it was back in the 1960s. Be bold in your ministry among those who are bound by sin, sickness, demon, and fear. 4. Expect great things from God. Attempt great things for God. This was the life motto of premier missionary William Carey. As we receive great things from God by His Word and Spirit, then we can attempt great things for God. In the spring of 1979, I was a guest on Dr. Lester Sumrall television program. While being interviewed by Brother Sumrall, the Lord challenged me to win 1 million souls to Christ before my ministry concluded here on this earth. When I shared this vision with my family and friends, nobody encouraged me. Some criticized me for such an encounter with God. 1 million souls seems totally impossible. Yet I knew the Lord had spoken to me. To personally encourage my own heart, I wrote these words down in my daily journal. I would rather attempt something great and fail than to attempt nothing and succeed. With your help, Father, I will do my best. In late 1979, the Lord opened the door of India to me. Crusading in India for much of the next 23 years was God's plan in fulfilling that vision of winning millions of souls. If you receive and accept your part in God's plan for world evangelism, the Lord will lift your gaze beyond the end of your nose. Then you will help answer Jesus' striking prayer for laborers recorded in all 4 Gospels. Say not ye, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh harvest. Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white, ready to harvest. John 4:35. End of chapter 2.